Did Jesus really predict his own death and resurrection? Or were those lines added later after everything already happened? It's a fair question, but when you dig into the evidence, what you find isn't vague. It's clear, deliberate, and surprising. Let's walk through 5 moments from Jesus' life that suggest he knew that the cross was coming, and that he knew it wouldn't be the end. Example 1, the rebuke of Peter. Let's start with one of the most intense confrontations in the Gospels. Jesus began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things, that he must be killed and after 3 days rise again. He spoke plainly about this, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But when Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. "Get behind me, Satan," he said. Imagine hearing your teacher, the one you believe is the Messiah, predict his death. And when you push back, he calls you Satan. Peter was a central figure in the early church. If someone were inventing stories to prop up his legacy, why include something so humiliating? This is what scholars call the criterion of embarrassment, a clue that what you're reading wasn't manufactured after the fact, because no one had anything to gain by including it. This rebuke only makes sense if it actually happened, and if Jesus really did predict what was coming. Example 2, the Garden of Gethsemane. Fast forward to Jesus' final night. He knows what's coming and prays this: "Abba, Father, all things are possible for you. Remove this cup from me. Not what I will, but what you will." New Testament scholar Craig A. Evans puts it this way: "It is difficult to imagine why an early Christian would invent an utterance in which Jesus appears frightened and reluctant to go to his death." This prayer shows vulnerability, tension, humanity, and yet obedience. It's not the kind of thing people fabricate to make a hero look more divine. It reads like raw history. Example 3, take up your cross. Early on in his ministry, Jesus made the shocking statement, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross." But when Jesus was actually crucified, he needed help carrying his cross. That's an awkward inconsistency. If someone were writing fiction after the resurrection, they'd clean that up. They'd make it match. Evans again says, "The tension between the saying and what later actually happens strongly argues for authenticity." This isn't polished mythology, it's gritty, unfiltered memory. Example 4, the sign of Jonah. When the Pharisees demanded a sign, Jesus responded, "As Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a huge fish, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." Scholar Brant Petrie explains, the sign of Jonah is both the resurrection of the Son of Man on the 3rd day and the repentance of the Gentiles that will follow. Jonah spent 3 days in darkness, then brought a message of repentance. Sound familiar? This isn't a random metaphor, it's a roadmap. Example 5, the temple prediction. Early in John's gospel, Jesus says, "Destroy this temple, and I will raise it again in 3 days." At the time, no one understood what he meant. But after the resurrection, the disciples remembered. If the Gospels were written backwards, trying to force everything to fit into the resurrection, why include that confusion? Why not have the disciples understand it immediately? Because that's not how real memory works. Real people take time to connect the dots. That tension between prediction and recognition is exactly what we'd expect from eyewitness accounts. So did Jesus predict his own death and resurrection? The evidence from his teachings, his prayers, and his metaphors points to a clear yes. But here's what's even more remarkable. He didn't just predict it, he walked straight into it. And he did it for you. He didn't run from the cross, he embraced it because he knew what would come after. And if he was right about the cross, maybe he was right about everything else too.